In an industry stuffed with marketing bullshit, empty promises, and shiny suited liars, one woman's had enough. She knows what it's like to have the wrong clients, no money, and no time for fun. But she also knows how to fix it. And on the Business for Superheroes show, she promises to tell the down and dirty truth about business, sales, and running away with the circus. Here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the Business for Superheroes show. I'm Vicky Fraser and I am here this week not with Joe, but with Jill Pond. Jill, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to talk about all sorts of things, but first of all, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, hello. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. So I am a marketing strategist and I specialize in messaging and copywriting. And it's funny, I kind of landed into marketing totally backwards. I was a blogger. I just started blogging because I had kids and I was like, this fucking sucks. Like, I need to talk about this somewhere. And so I started blogging. Not that having kids sucks entirely, but there's a lot about it that does. And I did that for a few years. And, you know, when you're blogging, the currency is popularity in a lot of places, especially amongst the mommy bloggers, where it's like, oh, I have 100 billion thousand followers and I'm making $3 a year. So, you know, it's really was kind of a messed up space to be in. And I had a friend who was like, hey, I heard of this thing called copywriting. Do you know what that is? And I'm like, what? No, what's this? And she's like, you can make actual green money writing words for people who are selling things. And I'm like, oh, like, tell me more about this. It sounds kind of amazing. And, you know, I'm kind of what I like to call a shiny object entrepreneur. At least that's what my background is. From the time I left corporate America, so I left corporate America, my background was in property management, which was soul sucking and just horrible. And my kids were born and I wanted to stay home. And so I had a multitude, all these little business ideas that I tried out. And I gotta say, I had no real focus and no real ability to bring things like to market, right? Because I had no background in marketing and I was clueless, you know, and I'm an idea generator, right? And I have to tell you how painful it is to have no marketing savvy or no like seed money to actually hire a marketing, person or team to help you bring that stuff to life. It's really painful to be in a position like that because you're stuck, right, with these ideas. And then you start thinking, well, at least I did. I started thinking like, I must be stupid or just inept because nothing is working. And what I have realized after learning marketing, and I don't know all things about marketing, I know my areas, but I had no real unique value proposition to tether me to one spot and anchor me down, right? And so what would happen is like, I would get this idea and then I would drift all over the place because that would like spur other ideas. And then I'd end up like in Australia when I was trying to head to South America, to like South Africa or something. And I just never ended up where I wanted to go. And so I guess what the problem was is I never really stuck my stake in the ground around one solid idea and then built around that. And so
what were some of these ideas that you had then? Because it sounds like you've tried a few businesses out. So, and I love talking to people who have done that because it means that you've actually been in the trenches and you've kind of tried to make stuff work and you've failed at stuff. And by the way, that's really important, people. You have to fail at stuff to learn. So what have you tried out that hasn't worked?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And when I present to groups, I always I have a whole slide that's like, failure is important, people. Like you have to do some failing. And so one of my favorites was that I was at a bachelorette party and I was, I feel like it's really important to do something that is tied into the purpose, your purpose in the world, right? And so I was at this bachelorette party and we had a palm reader there because we're all sober. And so like, we're not going to be like out going drinking or to the strip club. And when it was my turn, she said, she laid her card, or she said, have a question in your mind, and then I'm going to lay my cards out. And my question was, what am I supposed to be doing? So she lays her cards and has all this vagary stuff that I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense and it's not helpful. So anyway, I kind of forgot about it for the rest of the evening. But when I went home, I laid down and when my head hit the pillow, this idea just like popped into my head. And I knew that one of the things that I was supposed to be doing was teaching girls about sexual health. And
really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I started the business around, it was called Girls Right, spelled RITE. And kind of the whole idea was like helping girls through the rite of passage of getting boobs and pubes. That was my unofficial tagline.
Boobs and pubes. Love it.
But, I, again, knowing nothing about marketing, I wanted to push my agenda, which was like, parents, you have to fucking talk to your kids about this stuff. You have to teach them. And if you don't, like, that's when your fears are going to come true, is, you're going to end up with kids who are just like sexually completely going wild or
learning it from those awful teenage magazines that just make people feel like shit because that's their raison d'etre. And
yeah. And two, like, I'm a huge body positivity advocate. I've had my own struggles with eating disorder stuff. And it's just so important to me that girls understand that their value does not lie in what they look like. So anyway, I actually partnered with the Girl Scouts, and they were my biggest client, doing like period workshops and puberty workshops. But still, I was really lucky to make like $500 in a month. And so yeah, I gave up on that and then started blogging. My blog was called Totally Inappropriate Mom. And I blogged about all kinds of stuff, not just raising kids, but I blogged about, sex and struggles with feeling different. And then that's when I kind of drifted into copywriting. So
cool. Okay. So where do you think you're going now? I mean, what kind of copywriting do you do now for people?
So I started out really doing a lot of website copywriting because it made sense to me. I was like, oh, this is the easiest thing. Because when I started looking into, when I first started copywriting, I was like, what the fuck is a sales funnel? And what the fuck is a landing page? Sorry, I cuss a lot.
It's fine. My listeners are used to that.
Yeah, tone it down a little. I didn't know what any of that was. And so like if someone wanted me to write a sales page or an email sequence, I was like, I don't know what that is. So can we just write a homepage and an about page? So that's where I started. And then as I felt like I became very comfortable with that, I started in with more sales copy. And, I was a really good writer out of the gate, but lacked any discipline around like conversion formulas. Like, hey, there's real ways to take people from lurkers into actual buyers. And I didn't know what those were, but my instincts have always been really good. And so with a little bit of self-training, I've done a lot of my research and training through Copy Hackers.
Yeah.
And Gianna Weeb is like, the original conversion copywriter. So
yeah, she's great. Her stuff is great.
Yeah, she's brilliant. I'm in one of her trainings right now and I'm like, oh God, this is intense. So I started into sales copy more. And one of the things that I noticed more and more and more is like, these people need way more than just someone who's going to write their stuff. They need a consultant who's going to help rein in their ideas and get them organized. And I mean, haven't you found that in your career as well?
Yeah. People will come to you. This is really funny. And if there are any copywriters listening, pay close attention to this entire podcast. But yeah, I mean, so many people will come to you and say, oh, I need an email writing, and I'll take a look at what they're doing. And I'm like, no, you don't. You need a decent product. You need an offer. You need a page, an email series, and then some follow-up. It's like one email ain't going to do jack shit for you, except for just piss people off if they even notice it. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You're quite right to become a consultant. And any copywriter listening, do not just be just another copywriter, because there's 1,000,001 mediocre and crap copywriters out there. There are very few people who understand sales conversion and understand the whole marketing and sales system. So yeah, you.
Yes. Well, I'm still learning because I couldn't map out someone's funnel for them, but if I have their funnel person give me their funnel map and say, we need these things, I'm like, okay, I can do that. But, so yeah, one of the things that I just noticed is people needed more strategy. So I have these wildly intense questionnaires that I give my clients, and they will find any hole in somebody's plan, pretty quickly. And And so that's when I started noticing, especially when we get like writing website copy, when we get to people's services page, they're like, well, here's kind of what I'm thinking. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You need to have like a solid offer. What's your offer? And just like you said, like a lot of times, especially coaches, I work with a lot of coaches. They're like, well, maybe we can just do 5-week sessions here. And then maybe like I'm going to do a mastermind and this and that, like all these big ideas. And it was so unorganized and difficult for me to like pin people down. And what I didn't realize, so I started reading Seth Godin's stuff a while back. And when I started reading his stuff, I started understanding about the smallest viable product and the smallest viable market. And I was like, oh, holy shit. Why didn't somebody, like, why isn't everyone talking about this in their marketing stuff? Because I think a lot of us, when we build businesses, we work backwards. We come in with this big idea, and then we have no way to like make it real because it's too big and it's too nebulous and too murky. And so one of the things he talks about too is your smallest viable market, which is basically like a very, very, very specific group of people that you want to serve and want something you have. And when I stopped thinking about myself and what I wanted to put out in the world and started thinking about the people I wanted to serve and what they actually needed, ideas just started coming. My business like took off and ideas started coming for new offers and for new group things and speaking gigs. True, like the thing that I want to do is I want to be like, I want to work with the rebels and the rogues and the people who want something unconventional.
Yeah.
But everyone fucking thinks they're rebel and they're rogue and they're unconventional, and they're not. And so what I had to kind of realize about that was what that is for people is like this deep desire, like people are longing for more than what they have, right? And they're looking to kind of marry who they are to what they do. And it's very hard to kind of figure that out when you are thinking about what you can offer the world, right?
Yeah.
And something people are going to buy. And so one of the things that I'm doing in my consulting right now is, so I think I told you when I pitched you about my Facebook group that had 6 people in it. Woo!
Yeah, no, I have to stop you there, right? Because the reason that you're listening to Jill and I right now is because she sent me what is hands down the best pitch that I've ever had for someone to come on the podcast. Because most of the time I just get these shitty pitches from people who clearly have never listened to the podcast, looked at anything I've ever done or anything, and it's just like, I think it'd be a great fit. Jill sent me an email with the subject line, boring shit, lying liars, and pond Jill Pond. I think that was the subject line. And I just cracked it. And every line just cracked me up. And I was like, this is somebody who is my type of person. She gets me. She's obviously read some of the stuff I've done. She's obviously stalked me a little bit. She knows what she's doing. And you just cracked me up because you were like, I have been on a sum total of 0 podcasts. I have been featured in the sum total of 0 best-selling magazines. And I was just like, I think I love you. You can definitely come on the podcast.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Thank you so much. But so one of the things that I teach people is about finding their superpower and working with that, right? And so for me, like humor and wit is like always been my superpower, and it translates really well into my writing. And I'm like, well, fuck, who's going to want me on their show? I have like, nobody knows who I am. I don't have any like big stuff out there that people are talking about. I'm not making like multi-6 figures a year, and so I'm like, I'm just going to capitalize on the fact that I'm like an up and comer and I'm scrapping my way up and trying to get people to notice me. And so like, I call it peculiar exclusivity, right? And so you find that thing about you that maybe is a little weird or something that you thought, when you were growing up, you thought it was like a bad or annoying trait. Like, I gotta say, like, I did not get invited to a lot of sleepovers when I was a kid because I was that kid that parents could not stand. I was like ADHD to the max. I'd come in and like eat all their food and just like sneak out. Like, yeah, I was that bad influence. I'd be like, let's sneak out and go jump on your neighbor's trampoline at 3 a.m. And so, like as a kid, that wasn't a very attractive quality, like for my parents and other adults, but like as an adult, it kind of works for me because I'm still kind of this mischievous person who likes to get into a little bit of trouble. And I mean, it never feels good to get in trouble, but it feels good to push the boundaries and
as long as you don't end up in jail, I think it's okay, right?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of difficult to be a people-pleasing rebel. I do like to work with paradox too when I'm working with people around like finding their superpower or their thing that makes them special or unique. Well, moving back to peculiar exclusivity, I started that Facebook as a way to, number one, play around with different things that I wanted to offer people and see how they went. It's like a playground for me. It's like an experimental area. But also to connect with other people and see what people are really struggling with. And without a doubt, like one of the biggest things entrepreneurs struggle with is they feel like they want more meaning in their work, like more intense meaning, right? Like not just like, it's Monday, I got to write some stuff and, I'm getting paid, yippee-doo. But to work with clients that light you up because they're attracted to you, because you have this superpower that people just, they want to work with you for that reason. And so I call that finding your thing, with a capital T. Yeah. But they also want more with a capital M, which is turning your magic into money and bringing your passion to your work and building offerings around that. So
what do you do with people then when you meet a client, and how does that process with people work?
Well, again, it's a lot of it. So there's two parts to my framework. And one is it's me, it's my brain and my intuition about people and about, just listening. When you listen to people, you shut up and listen, you can hear a lot of stuff in their stories that and I'm sure you've had this a million times where you're listening to someone talk about their offerings and what they want to do, and they just sound flat around it, right? They don't sound excited. And it's more of this obligatory, well, this is what all the other coaches are offering, so I'm going to do this too.
Yeah.
It's no, you can be innovative. You can try new things. And the questionnaires, I have my secret stash of questionnaires that I give to people for different projects that we're working on. And so a lot of times I will custom build questionnaires so if someone here's what usually happens, Vicky, is someone hires me to write something, and then we have our kickoff call, and I'm like, you're not ready to write. And they're like, what? I'm like, you're not ready to write. You're still in the exploratory discovery phase. And if I write you some copy right now, you're going to friggin' hate it because it's going to miss all the marks. And we don't have your unique value proposition. We don't have your, offerings. It's a big, they come to you with a huge pile, like a laundry basket that's got piled way over their head with dirty clothes that's falling off the sides. And they're like, here, fold my laundry. You know what I mean? They want you to, they don't realize what a mess it is. And so you have to kind of lovingly point out to people hey, you're fucking amazing, Sharon, but your ideas are a goddamn disaster. So let's dig into this and make it. No one wants to build a business around an idea that's not going to work. It's heartbreaking to spend that money and put that time in. And so when someone works with me, they're getting somebody who really gives a shit about their success and about putting something out there in the world that is authentic to them, right? That's going to work. And so, God, what was your question?
So that sounds like part of what you do then is not just kind of pulling the one idea out of people, but circling back around to that smallest viable product again. So coming back to the one thing that you can. So is that something you help people do? You help them figure out what that smallest viable product is?
Yes, totally. Thank you for keeping my shiny object brain on track here. But one of the things that I've only been in this field for 2.5 years, and it did not take me long to just start loathing boring shit, lying liars who lie, and bullshit marketing. And it's everywhere, and you can see right through it. At least I do. And I had somebody sell me on their course and tell me, I'm making $40,000 a month doing this, and you can too. And here, she just sold me because she knew what I wanted so badly. So I dropped, a fistful of cash into her program and walked away she didn't give a shit. Like she's creating an evergreen course and didn't give a crap about my success. And I think like when you're buying into stuff like that, that's just sort of like this, people are always looking for ways to scale their business, and group programs and evergreen courses are a great way to do that, but they really lack the personal touch that consulting has. And so what'll happen, someone hires me to write something. We have our call. You're not ready to write. And so here's what we're going to do. You can hire me for some consulting sessions, and it might be just one, it might be 5. And we're going to, I completely customize those sessions, and I keep them at 1 hour because that's when, the creative juices like tend to start slowing down when people get tired, especially when you're working in that super creative space. But what I will do is for each session, I will send the client a customized questionnaire that pertains to the things they're struggling with, like what I see as their roadblocks, to help them get clarity. So really, I'm selling some clarity and some creative, strategy once we get that clarity. And so it's just a combination of my brain and these fabulous questionnaires that, when you ask people the right questions, that's where you get to the magic.
It's so true. So sitting down and shutting up and listening is by far the most profitable thing any copywriter, any business owner can do. Just listen to your clients, listen to what they want.
And where they've failed, like that's really like where more of the magic is too. Like what's not working, where have you failed? Like looking into their struggles and then helping them, bash down the walls, the bricks, the curtain. It could be something as simple as like they're not looking in the right direction and they already have an amazing idea, but they've just got like the wrong filter on it, or they're missing one little piece. And so that's the beauty of consulting, is it's completely customized and you get where you're going a lot faster when you do that.
Sure. So for any business owners who are listening who are struggling with this, and that's going to be a lot of them, because I know it's really difficult to come up with the thing that makes you different, that thing that makes you stand out. And let's assume that they can't afford to work with somebody like you just yet, because a lot of them can't. So what would you say to somebody like that? What's your top tip for trying to find that offering, that thing that makes you different?
Yeah, the top tip is, this was so mind-blowing for me when I read what Seth Godin wrote. He's like, well, there's 3 questions that are important. First of all, what change are you trying to make? Right? Mm-hmm. So write about that. Sit down, think about it, write about it. The next question is, in whom would you like to make this change? Who do you want to work with? And that's where I was like, holy crap. Okay, so this is not all about me. This is not all about us as business builders. This is about who we want to serve and showing up for them. And like, we're going to work hard to help people. Like he is so just brilliantly kind. And I love that. Like, he's not all about the money. He's about like truly making a change and making a difference in people's lives. And so start with so when we talk about your smallest viable market and your smallest viable product, so don't start with your big idea, right? It's good to have that in the back of your mind when you're creating a vision for yourself, but it can really trip you up when you're trying to build a business. Or let's say you already have a business and you need to pivot or rebrand or switch gears because it's not working as well as you want. And so make a list. Here's what I like to do is just start making a list of the people you want to work with, who they are, what they dream of, what they desire, what they believe. And those are called psychographics. Mm-hmm. So you're not actually, like, it's such a useless exercise to list out demographics. I'm just going to roll my eyes at demographics for a minute because, they're important for a minute, but like truly, when you're looking at the psychology of sales, it's important to know the dreams and desires and wants and fears of the people that you're trying to sell to. And so your target market, you need to know that stuff. And so if you have access to people, start asking questions. What are you guys struggling with? Like, where's your business kind of falling short? And so perhaps this is with current clients or with other entrepreneurs that you know, or in a Facebook group. Do some market research around that. And then, then we want to kind of figure out what your smallest viable product is, which is basically like the most simple and useful aspect of what it is that you do. Okay. And so for a lot of the coaches that I talk to, they don't know what that is. Okay. They just know they want to help. And I'm like, well, are you helping people with navigating divorce? Or are you helping people with parenting? Are you helping people with their career? Well, what aspect of their career? And so your smallest viable product, it helps to start listing the skills that you have. Okay. And whether those are like, you can break them into two categories. So, what kind of marketing skills do you have? And then what are the skills that are like business related to you? So, I have a guy right now, a client who, he wants to like consult high level, like CEOs and, senior executive teams.
Yeah.
And he's never done any consulting and has no program, no product yet. And I'm like, all right, you've got your vision. So let's start breaking down what is the very smallest thing you can offer and who are you going to give that to? Because you can't get in the door with a CEO if you have no one recommending you or you have no reputation.
Sure.
And so like with someone like him, we're working down to like, you need to switch your idea of who you're going to go after for your target market. So maybe that's HR. Maybe it is the person in head of training and development. Maybe it's an employee that you know that works there that can give you an intro. And then we need to figure out what your smallest and most simple offering is. And so he's still working on that because he wasn't ready to write. So he's got one of my questionnaires and he's out working right now. So yeah, for those of you who are listening, just make a list of all of your skills that you can bring to the table that you could potentially package up into different types of offerings. And so try and make them offerings that are one-tiered offerings, like one-dimensional offerings. Like I am going to XYZ and it's just the one thing, right? So I'm not going to X and Y and Z and F and G, you know what I mean? So
I'm going to do one thing. Yeah.
Yes, one thing. The smallest viable product of what you can offer to your smallest viable market. So it's really like micro marketing at this point.
Micro marketing. I love it. Cool. Thank you. Well, we are running out of time, which makes me sad. But thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find out more about you? Because I know you mentioned your Facebook group. Remind us what that's called.
Yeah. So I changed the name, which I think was probably a dumb move because I'm starting a group program called the Lab Method Mastermind. And so it's all about finding your smallest viable product and experimenting with it with clients until you figure out if it works. So you can find me at the Lab Method Mastermind on Facebook. My website is www.jillpond.com. My husband always says pond, like a small body of water. And so yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, I'll put those, I'll make sure those links are in the show notes. So that's jillpond.com. Think James Bond, obviously, except for a small body of water. And I'll put the link to your Facebook group up as well. What's it called again? The Lab Method Mastermind.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I loved it. I'm a science nerd, so I love the idea of kind of doing experiments on cutting bits off them and such like. So that's been that's been really cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, really enjoyed talking to you and listening to you.
Thank you so much, Vicky.
And we'll get you back in the future, and you can tell us about what you've been doing and where you're going. So I've got other questions for you as well, which we've run out of time for now. So thank you very much, guys. Go check out Jill's stuff, see what she's up to. And Joe and I will be back same time next week with more gin and marketing shizzle and probably noisy cats. In the meantime, have a very, very fun week marketing your business.
Like what you've just heard? Tell your colleagues, tell your friends, send them to www.businessforsuperheroes.com/podcast.